Hey guys, the Next Gen ATP Finals 2025 is getting close. It's going to take place from the 17th to 21st of December in Saudi Arabia. So let's talk a little bit about this tournament. It's the annual season-ending exhibition tournament for the top 8 male players aged 20 years and under. And I think it's a really interesting tournament because it happens at the end of the year when there's not much other tennis to watch. The main ATP tour already stopped, so most players are just getting their rest in. They are on holiday, or maybe they are practicing and preparing for the new season next year. But this tournament is really the only highlight in mid-December to watch. It was first held in 2017, and there are some previous winners who are quite notable. And I would say whoever wins this tournament might be one of the stars of the sport in the future. In 2019, Yannick Sinner won the tournament. 21, Carlos Alcaraz. So both of them obviously ended up as the two top players currently on the ATP Tour. And then last year we saw Joao Fonseca winning this tournament. So let's have a look at the likely lineup, and I'm going to give you my prediction of who is going to be the winner this year. Obviously, the first three players on the list will be the favorites going into the tournaments. The top three are well ahead of the others in terms of points, so let's have a look at them one by one. The player ranked first is the player that actually I think some of you might don't even know. It's Jakub Mansik from the Czech Republic. He had a very strong start into the year 2025, but I'd say a rather unimpressive second half of the year. He started the season really strong, going into the quarterfinals in two ATP 250 tournaments in Brisbane and Auckland in January. Then he reached the third round at the Australian Open. And then in March, he won the ATP 1000, the Masters tournament in Miami. First ATP title of his career, and right away winning a Masters tournament. Incredible achievement. And there's also a funny story there that he actually nearly pulled out of the tournament due to an inflammation in his right knee. Actually, shortly before his opening match, he tried to contact the referee to withdraw from the tournament. But he couldn't find the referee because he was out for lunch. So he visited the physio instead, and then the physio encouraged him to play the first match. And then he started to feel better and better throughout the tournament and obviously won this tournament. So, really incredible achievement. In April, he reached the quarterfinals at the Madrid Masters. At the French Open, he reached the second round. But yeah, in the second half of the season, I mean, the results were not as impressive anymore. There was one showing in the quarterfinals of the ATP 500 in Queens. In Wimbledon, he reached the third round, US Open second round, but really not much else, as we can see here. So let's go to the second player on the list, Joao Fonseca from Brazil. He won last year's Next Gen ATP Finals, and because of that, he entered the year as a really hyped young player. Many people expected him to be one of the big new stars on the ATP main tour, but I would say he had a rather disappointing year, or at least a very inconsistent year, because he had two huge victories this year, as we can see here, but he also had many disappointing showings at different tournaments. So at the Australian Open, he reached the second round, and then he won his first tournament, the ATP 250 Argentina Open in February. This was his first ATP title of his career at only 18 years old, making him the 10th youngest ATP champion of all time. Obviously, that looked very, very promising then. But then throughout the whole next couple of months, he disappointed quite a bit, I would say. At the French Open, he reached the third round. At Wimbledon, he reached the third round. At the US Open, he reached the second round. And in many tournaments, he didn't even came out of the first round until October when he won the second tournament of his career. He won the ATP 500 Swiss indoors. So, yeah, pretty inconsistent year for Joao. So let's look at the third player, the young American Lerner Tian. He started the season with a very respectable reaching of the fourth round of the Australian Open, and he also reached the quarterfinals of the ATP 500 Acapulco, Mexico Open. But for the most part of the first half of the season, he was struggling to adapt to the ATP Tour level. He didn't come out of the first round of many tournaments, including the French Open and US Open. In Wimbledon, he was eliminated in the second round. But the real story of Tien's season begins after the US Open. The second half of 2025 is where Learner Tien truly took off. At the Hangzhou Open in China, an ATP 250 event, he reached the quarterfinals, then followed it up with an electrifying run all the way to the final of the ATP 500 China Open. He also reached the fourth round of the Shanghai Masters, and then at the ATP 250 Moselle Open, Learner Tien captured the first ATP title of his career. He really caught fire at the end of the season, and that's why I believe he's going to win this year's Next Gen ATP Finals. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you agree, or are you picking someone else to win this year? Also, feel free to drop me a like, subscribe to my channel. I appreciate you guys. See you next time.